Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of our BDPA Tech and Career Talks. I am Devin Jenkins, our National Tech and Career Talk leader. I work at GE Healthcare as a technical product manager in supply chain analytics here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Glad to have you all with us today. I'm excited for our conversation with Eric Williamson around how to work with jerks. I'm sure everyone can relate to that in one form or another. Hopefully, you're not the jerk in that situation, but we'll talk about that too. So, I want to just give a brief overview of BDPA and the Tech Talks, what we're all about. And then I will turn the floor over to Eric so we can get into it. So, BDPA is Black Data Processing Associates. In case you're not familiar, I've been around since 1975 as a forum for those in the IT industry, African Americans specifically, to continue to develop their skills and grow and advance in the IT field. But we also have a focus on youth. So middle and high school students participate in our high school coding competitions and other activities throughout the year where they're learning computer programming skills and relevant professional development skills to have them poised for thriving tech careers. So our mantra is all about advancing careers from the classroom to the boardroom. So we're excited to have you with us this morning. I've done about all the talking I plan to do. At this time, I will turn the floor over to Eric to give us our main presentation for today. I want to remind you to leverage the chat throughout the call. If you have questions or thoughts, drop them in there. We'll come back to them at the end if we don't get to them in the middle of the call. But thank you for joining. Eric, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Appreciate being with you all on this happy Friday. Hope you and your families are doing well and staying safe during these, crazy, hectic, turbulent, uncertain, exciting, disruptive times, whatever word you want to use to describe today's times. I hope you and your families are doing well and staying safe. And I hope you all are ready to have a blast today as we talk about this pervasive pain point about how to work with jerks. And I'm curious to know from anyone here, and please drop it into the chat, what would you say is your biggest challenge when it comes to working with jerks or even managing conflict for that matter? What do you say is your biggest challenge? Like Devin said, feel free to drop that into the chat. I'm curious to know. Okay, not being heard. Oh, yeah, very good. Not being heard. Very interesting. And, I don't think you're alone in that either. See, that was Miss Stewart, Adrian Stewart, Amy Smith. People feeling intimidated by your knowledge. Yeah, by your knowledge and experience, right? Yeah. People can definitely feel intimidated thinking that you're going to outperform them or you're going to get promoted over them. They see you as a threat sometimes. I can definitely relate to that. Distractions to end goals and objectives. Yeah, it can be a big distraction. And that's one of the reasons, Andre, why I wanted to talk about this, because when you talk about working with jerks and managing conflict, those things can be real distractions and keep you from what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's if you're in IT, digital transformation goals, or any of the other goals that you have in any other organization. It can be a real distraction. And not only will you receive some, Magnus not being heard. Oh, that's another one. Okay. All right. Well, not only are you guys going to receive some really good strategies for helping you deal with these challenges that you just referenced in the chat, you all are going to walk away with some concrete strategies for not only how to work with jerks, but some strategies for managing conflict, so that way you can build relationships with the people that you work with and serve. And I'm a big proponent of building relationships before you actually need them. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. But I got another question for you all here. When you see these images on this screen here, can anyone here relate to any of these images here? Just type a yes if you can. Has anyone ever felt like any of these images in the screen? Yep, I see some yeses, absolutely. And I'm sure you all may have a name that you use or that you call when somebody makes you feel like this. I see yes with the exclamation point. Yes, that's right, Amanda. I'm sure you all have a certain name that you use to describe some of the people that make us feel like some of the images on the screen, right? And I'm willing to bet that the name that you call these people is probably something that you call them when you're by yourself, when you're talking to a trusted person, or maybe when you're on mute during a Zoom call. And I'm sure that name that you call them, whatever that might be, may be inappropriate to say during today's workshop. So let's just call them what I call them in my book. Let's call them jerks. Anyone here have any examples of jerks that they've ever worked with? Cynthia Harvey says jerk. Anyone here have an example of a jerk that they've worked with? Well, I'm sure there's plenty that might come to mind. I call them clowns. Okay, yeah, they could be clowns. Yeah, they could be clowns. And when you're working with jerks, you're all going to walk away with some strategies that's going to help you build those relationships and manage those relationships with people, especially those who can act like jerks or clowns that, like you just referenced here, Armanda. Now, let me ask you some questions here. Do anyone ever feel that you just don't even want to be around these people? If you've ever felt like that, you're in the right place. If you ever asked yourself, why do I have to work with these kind of people? Well, you're in the right place too. How many times, if anyone has ever wanted to just avoid these people in general, or just leave the job, or just do something regrettable, right? You're in the right place. You're in the right place if you ever had difficulty getting along with these people. If you want to learn more about how to manage relationships with these people. If you're tired of avoiding conflict, so it doesn't matter where you are when it comes to managing conflict, working with jerks, or building relationships. I've got something that can help you out. So I'm looking forward to talking about those things shortly. So here's the game plan. Here's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to talk about some common mistakes that we can make towards managing conflict. I'm going to talk about how to manage your emotions, diffuse tense situations, and mitigate conflict. I'm going to talk about how you can build engagement and team synergy, because I tell you, it's all about the team. All right. It's all about the team. And we're going to talk about how to build trust and gain influence in the workplace. And we'll talk about some of the next steps to help you make it all happen. Now, I really appreciate those of you who have already submitted to the survey, responded to the survey. That really helped me give some context into some of the things that you might be going through and how to adjust today's content to suit some of those challenges. But make sure, whatever you do, hang out to the end, because you're going to receive a really great resource. I'm also going to make the slide deck available, and I'm going to have some much more goodies to share with you as well. Now, before I even begin to that, what I want to do is I want to share a quick story about how I first ran into a jerk. Now, check this out. I was sitting in my all-white Pontiac Grand Am, and I was staring at myself in the rearview mirror. So I want to tell you about a time where I became a jerk. So when I graduated from college, I was brimming with confidence. I mean, you couldn't tell me anything. All right. I was really enjoying myself. I graduated with honors. I got into the very first school that I applied to. And so I was on top of the world. And when I got my first job, I was assigned a mentor. And a mentor, as you know, is designed to show you the ropes, how to do certain things and help you get acclimated so that way you could work independently. But see, I didn't see it that way. I saw it as my mentor trying to tell me how to do my job. I mean, she would say things like, no, Eric, don't do it this way. Do it that way. You get a better result. No, try it this way instead. This is what the client really needs. No. You're not doing it right. This is how you can be more effective with it, doing it this way. And so one day when she was mentoring me, I looked at her and I said, who do you think you are talking to me like this? Don't you know I graduated with honors from a really good school on the East Coast? I think I can learn this, I can grasp this on my own. So thanks, but I think I'm good. Now, I'm sure you all can probably think, yeah, he was a real jerk. My mentor, she went like this. Fine, good luck to you. All right, have at it. And so she was not inclined to help me at all. But it didn't stop there, because one of the most senior members of the team, his name was Charlie. He was known for having this warm smile. Rumor has it that he was going to retire, but he approached me one day to introduce himself. And he said, Eric, nice to meet you. My name's Charlie, and he had this warm smile, really lit up the room. But I looked at him and I said, hey, Charlie, nice to meet you. My name's Eric. I guess I was hired to replace you, huh? Let me tell you, Charlie's smile turned into a frown. That was the last time I ever saw Charlie smile, and he walked away. And I don't even remember the last time I ever talked to him since then. Yeah, dead serious, Armanda. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. But I didn't stop there. I was rude to my other coworkers, right? I had an edge on I felt like I had a chip on my shoulder for no reason. I was arrogant. I was combative. I was too chatty. All those things that you can think of what a jerk is, that's who I was. And I was also rude to the clients that I served. But it wasn't until one day when my boss, he summoned me to his office. And he said, Eric, I've been kind of noticing your behavior lately. I've been noticing some of the changes that are going on with the team and some of the frustrations and stuff. And I walked by your desk and you've got a stack of paperwork almost as tall as you. This isn't why we hired you. And I'm sorry, if you can't turn things around now, I'm going to have to let you go. And folks, that was the first time where I was face to face with losing my job. My job was in jeopardy and I was shocked. Just like the facial expression Armanda just had, I was that shocked. And I didn't know what to do. I had nobody to help me. So I had to figure it out on my own. And as I opened that door to leave his office, he said, but wait a second. I think I can help you out. I want you to attend an emotional intelligence course. And I'm thinking, all right, so first you threatened to fire me. And now you're trying to tell me that I have stupid emotions, so I have to attend emotional intelligence workshop? And so he said, I really think that this is going to help you adjust your behavior, become aware of your emotions and how you're responding, and deal with the workplace much more effectively. So don't get it twisted. It wasn't a nice thing to attend. My job depended on it, right? So I was voluntold to attend. But when I attended that workshop, that introductory workshop to emotional intelligence, I was stunned. I was stunned about how I was behaving, how rude and abrasive I was to my coworkers, how contentious I was, just how demotivated I was. It was just awful. And I realized, that's why I found myself staring in my all-white Pontiac Grand Am in the mirror saying, wow, I'm a jerk. And I realized some of the mistakes that I was making, some of the mistakes you might relate to. For example, I was wasting people's time. A lot of you mentioned that in the chat, that it can waste up to 2 to 4, maybe as much as 8 hours a week dealing with conflict. Well, it was wasting me at about that much time as well, because I was gossiping. I was going tit for tat. I was trying to avoid other people, or I was complaining about other people. And once you spend all that time venting and talking about these situations and getting frustrated over it without doing your job, you waste time, and all that work just escalated and it was just out of control. So that was my first mistake. The second mistake, I was disengaged. I was not part of the team. I was not participating in the team discussions. I was not offering my input. I was not supporting any of my colleagues. It was just a zero-sum game for me. And so because I was disengaged and I wasn't supporting other people and I wasn't going above and beyond or going the extra mile, that can contribute, because there's an actual figure by Gallup right before COVID that said that over $450 billion are dedicated towards disengagement, right? Disengagement translates to over $450 billion in lost productivity. And so that's what I was doing. I was contributing to that lost productivity. So that was my second mistake. The third mistake, I was a terrible team player. Nobody wanted to work with me. They avoided me as much as I avoided them. And it was a recipe for disaster. So we had no synergy, and I contributed to a toxic workplace. But once I learned the value of emotional intelligence, once I realized how important it was, I really strived to want to know more about it and help not just myself, but other people. And so for over 20 years, about 15 to 20 years, I've been at the intersection between emotional intelligence, leadership development, and conflict resolution. And so I help people achieve their long and short-term goals by helping them remove that workplace friction. And so when I published my book, How to Work with Jerks, I was getting feedback from all types of people, right? All types of people. It's like, what is a jerk to you? What is a jerk to you? And I got all types of definitions of a jerk, but there were so many examples, I couldn't put it all in a book. I had to come up with one definition that cast a wide net, but resonated with everyone too. And here's my definition of a jerk. A jerk is someone who doesn't use social skills as a necessary job skill. And I want to emphasize the word necessary, because Working with jerks or managing conflict isn't just a nice thing to have. It's not a nice thing to do. It's a necessity because you have to be able to interact with all types of people to get anything done. You have to be able to interact with all types of people in order to advance your career. This is an extremely important quality to have. And I'm going to explain a little bit why shortly. But through my research, I realized that there are many reasons why people act like jerks. And some of the reasons are what I noted in the survey as well. Some people are incompetent. People who are promoted into leadership positions, sometimes they lack the skill set needed to lead people. They may have done their former job very well, but they have no experience leading people. It's like what my mentor, not the mentor I was telling you about before, but another mentor told me. She said, what got you here won't get you there. You need a whole new skill set needed to lead people. And some people lack that skill set. Stress is another thing. As you know, working remotely, if many of you do work remotely, a lot of times you're going from meeting to meeting to meeting without any break in between, or task to task to task without any break in between. And when you're done with your day, now you have to be a family person. You have to be a parent or care for someone or do some errands, and there's no downtime. So that stress can accumulate and really help you contribute to you acting like a jerk. Some people are overwhelmed too. All right, a lot of people in IT, they're overwhelmed with trying to keep up with technology, trying to keep their company safe from cyber threats, trying to keep up with emerging technologies or anybody else that's sitting alongside them. And they feel overwhelmed with all the workloads that they have, especially during the Great Resignation, where people are fleeing from job to job. And now the people who are left there, they're caught doing most of the work. It could also be learned behavior. If you've ever worked with someone or worked for someone who was a jerk or who was poor at managing conflict, you can adopt those same things, those same skill sets. Next thing is fear. Fear of losing your job, fear of being outperformed, fear of losing a promotion. All those things can help you become a jerk. But when it all comes down to it, there's really only two types of jerks. People who are unaware that they're jerks, meaning like they had no clue that they were acting like that, or people who are aware, but they just don't care. Meaning they thrive off of living through fear and intimidation. You know, they think that that's the most effective way to get something done. But regardless of whether you're dealing with someone who's aware or just doesn't care, it's extremely important that you develop these skill sets to interact effectively with people, because as jobs become increasingly automated, employers, they're seeking workers with skills that machines can't replace. And these skills just so happen to be the social skills that I was referring to before. For example, communication skills, listening skills, critical thinking skills, interpersonal skills. And check this out, if you're looking at the chart, over 3/4 of employers are saying that these skills to master, they're extremely important to gaining leadership positions within the organization. So that's even more of an incentive to want to learn, master this kind of interpersonal skills that I'm talking about, these social skills. And here are some of the myths that people say when I talk about jerks. I ask them, are you concerned about working with jerks? Do you think there's a jerk problem? Some people say, no worries. If I work with a jerk, I can just quit like millions of other people have done during the Great Resignation and just find a new job. And that's fine and all. That may prove to be successful, but just remember, if anyone has ever seen the movie Wall Street, right? The original with Michael Douglas, he said something like, same dog, different fleas, right? You can have a different job, same types of jerks. So you can climb the corporate ladder, you can quit and get a new job. You'll still be likely to run into those difficult conversations, people that you just don't want to work with difficult personalities. So it's best to try to learn how to develop these skills now. Some people say, hey, HR can help me. And that could be true. I'm not downplaying HR at all. They can be a useful resource. But just remember that jerks or difficult people, they can be going to HR with their own version of the story, with their own problem. And now you might have two different issues that HR had to investigate. All the while, you still may have to work with that person anyway. So what are you going to do until then? You're going to need to develop those kind of skill sets. The next thing is people say, you know what? I got my dream job, E. I don't work with jerks. I don't know what that's like. And that is fantastic. I am envious, and I bet a lot of people would be envious of you as well. But just remember, the favorite people that you love working with, right, that make your day, they can move on from their job. They can get promoted. They can find a new job. They can go off and do something else, and they can be replaced by someone who can turn your whole life upside down. So it's so important to develop the skills that I'm going to talk about pretty soon. And here is the first one that I want to talk about. This is what I have outlined in my book, and it's called the Assess, Analyze, Act method. This is a 3-step process to help you not only work with jerks, but manage conflict much more effectively and help you build relationships. So a lot of times when people are under stress, our body is telling us something. Our body is telling us that we're under stress, that we're under duress, that we're in conflict. And what happens is sometimes our heart can beat fast, our palms can get sweaty, our mouth can get dry, we can furrow our eyebrow, our back could get tense. All those things that your body's doing is telling you something. It's telling you that you're under stress, that you're in a stressful situation, that you're in a conflict situation. And the sooner you are at assessing what your body's telling you, then you can go to step 2 and analyze. You can analyze why your body's feeling this way. Maybe you were stuck in traffic and now you got a bunch of work to get through. Maybe you're unprepared for an upcoming meeting. Maybe you've got multiple tasks going on and it's difficult to prioritize. Maybe you're just overwhelmed with work and personal stuff. Well, regardless, your body's telling you that. So once you're able to analyze that, then you can take a step back, take a more measured approach and respond thoughtfully without making a knee-jerk reaction. Because the beauty about acting in this manner, you don't have to respond immediately. You can take a moment, you can clear your head, you can avoid making decisions based on mood or feeling. Now you need all 3 of these. You need all 3 of these steps dialed in. You can't just do step 3. I mean, face it, you have just gone into step 3 and acted in a situation and had the situation be worse than where you left it. Just say yes if you've made it worse. Now, if you made it worse, say worse. You can just type that in the chat if you made the situation worse just by acting. Because once that happens, then you make those knee-jerk reactions. If you just go to step 3 and act, you risk making knee-jerk reactions. You can put your career in jeopardy. The conflict can escalate. Your projects will fail. You can be labeled as somebody that nobody wants to work with. But if you fail to analyze, if you fail to go to step 2 and analyze, you're going to continue to repeat the same behavior because you won't know how to respond. And people will lack trust that you can deal with stressful situations. And if you fail to do step 1, assess, you lack clarity, you lack awareness. You're unable to diagnose the problem. You can risk burnout and you can unknowingly create a toxic workplace. And some people decide not to do this because we allow our egos to become our amigos. And so it's important that we have that awareness to prevent that from occurring. And so talking about that first step, assessing the situation, is part of recognition. And what does that mean? It's about understanding your emotions and behaviors. So that way you can stay composed, you can make better decisions and initiate change. Because once you have your emotions and the emotions of others, you're able to recognize that and what's causing you to feel a certain way. It helps you make sounder, more strategic decisions. And you can see yourself more clearly. You can build stronger relationships. And it could be the difference between staying employed or losing your job. So here's some things that you can do to practice recognition right away. The first thing is ask for informal feedback. It's not the easiest thing to do, especially when we allow our egos to become our amigos. But when you ask informal feedback from a colleague or a direct report about, hey, how did this meeting go? Or how do you think I handled this situation? Or how do you think the group will like this situation, will respond to this situation? Once you're able to do that, it helps you keep your head on a swivel. That now you're able to incorporate different perspectives to influence how you move forward next. The next thing is think regularly, write in a journal. This is extremely important. Either in the beginning of the day, you can write how you see your day going, how you want your day planned, or towards the end of the day, you can reflect on how your day went. Either way, you can also use a journal to talk about what you want to accomplish, what you're feeling that day, what challenges you have. The more you're able to get out of your head and into a piece of paper, the better you can be more affiliated with your emotions, how you're responding, and you can make those proper adjustments. The other thing I recommend, take a personality test. Now, I'm sure many of you have taken all types of personality tests, strength finders, DISC assessments, emotional intelligence assessments, conflict management assessments. They're all really good. My favorite is a 360-degree assessment where not only do you assess yourself in certain situations, but anonymous colleagues assess you as well. So now you're getting the full perspective of how you're perceived and how people perceive you. So I highly recommend you continue doing that. The next thing is my favorite though. Ask what, not why. Let's be real here. A lot of times when we're in situations, stressful situations, we can ask ourselves, why is this happening to me? Why do I have to work with this jerk? Why is this person not responding to me? Why did my boss give me negative feedback? And when we ask the question why, it leads to exactly what happened to me, where I was wasting so much time with that unresolved conflict. I was wasting people's time. I was just venting, and I wasn't trying to solve the problem and move on. So instead of asking why, ask what. What can I do differently for a better outcome? What can I do differently to resolve conflict with this person? What can I do differently to get a better performance review? So when you ask your question, what, you proactively seek solutions to your problems. I worked with an executive in the public sector just recently, and she was challenged to merge two different departments into one. And this was going to impact hundreds of people. Hundreds of employees were going to have different roles, responsibilities, and titles. And no doubt the culture was going to change too. But I helped her use the power of recognition to not only become aware of her emotions and behaviors, but to become aware of the emotions and behaviors of her team. And so she was able to look at the look of concern on people's face, the whispers that were going around in the room, the eye rolling, the look of people just not sure what's going to happen, the worry that people had on their face. And so what she did was she used recognition by observing those behaviors. She used it to adjust her process. So with this merger, what she did was she was more transparent. She talked to the team about what to expect out of the merger, but she also took it a step further, and she got people's input about what they wanted to see out of the merger as well. So she was able to involve them in the process as well. Now, did everything go in the way that they wanted? Not everything, but some things did. And as a result, she got much more cooperation out of the people, and the merger went that much smoother. The next thing, this has to do with step number 2 when you're analyzing yourself and analyzing the situation, is to empathize. And I know we use the word empathy. I know a lot of you are familiar with the term empathy and what to do, but a lot of times we don't use it, we don't employ it, and it's difficult to employ because we don't know when to do it. And sometimes we just don't want to. We don't want to empathize with jerks sometimes. We don't want to empathize with someone who frustrates the heck out of us sometimes, right? But that's how you manage relationships. That's how you manage with conflict. That's how you get stuff done with people. So how can you become more empathetic? Well, you can create a safe environment. Now, this is extremely important because psychological safety is a big deal. And I'm sure a lot of you can agree with that psychological safety, a lot of people just don't feel safe. It's probably a big reason why a lot of people haven't, are fleeing from one job to the next. And so when people don't feel safe, they move on, or they don't, or they don't contribute. They're disengaged. And so you can create a safe environment by meeting with your peers, with your colleagues, to discuss challenges, discuss solutions to those challenges, brainstorm. That'll make innovation so much easier. And when you're with like-minded people who feel the same way as you do, you're empowered. You feel so much better. You feel so much more confident. The second thing is empower, don't micromanage. Now, you don't have to be a leader to demonstrate empowerment. You can lead a project. You can be the leader. You can be the product owner of something, or you can be the project lead. And if you have someone helping you out and you know there's a certain way that you can do it, that you like the way that you've done something else, leave it to that other person to do it. They can do it their way. They just have another way of getting it done. And the last thing is listen, understand, and validate, which is extremely important. This stands for love, L-U-V, love. Because once you listen, understand, and validate, you're able to see things from someone else's perspective. You're able to connect with them because they're human. And you're able to validate what they say. Now, you don't necessarily have to agree. My video isn't on. Oh, thanks for the heads up on that. I'm not sure how that happened. Thank you. When you're able to listen, understand, and validate what's going on, you're able to acknowledge what somebody else is saying. And you don't necessarily have to agree with what they're saying, but validating them, understanding what they're saying, now you've set the stage for it to be reciprocated. So now people, if you're validating what someone else is saying, they're more inclined to validate what they just heard from you. And it makes the relationship much more easier to manage. Another success story here. No, I was dealing with the middle manager. She just got promoted to middle management at Yale University. And she got promoted from the same job she was an employee at. And so because she became a middle manager, now all the peers, all her colleagues, she was now their boss. And she was looking for some help because she couldn't get cooperation from her team at all. For some reason, people were just not cooperating. They weren't getting work done and they were giving her a hard time. And so she said, Eric, I really need some help. Can you please help me create more harmony in the workplace? Can you please help me get this team to do their jobs? She said, I don't know what the problem was. They were doing it fine before. So I asked her to empathize. I said, look, imagine if you were working with someone who just got promoted and is now your boss, the person you used to hang out with all the time. Would you trust that person? Would you feel slighted? Would you feel a certain way? She goes, you know what? Personally, no, but I can see how other people might. And so what I did was I encouraged her. I said, look, people need to know you in your current role. So you need to open up the door and allow that to happen. So create some office hours or establish one-on-one meetings to meet with the people that you're working with. So then that way you can get to understand them. They can open up and talk about some of the challenges and frustrations that they have. And you can be more transparent about what you're trying to accomplish. And let me tell you, in a matter of 6 weeks, only 6 weeks, she was able to change that whole culture around. She was more confident in her day-to-day. The atmosphere was so much more positive, and then they were back to getting work done so much more better. So it was extremely helpful for her. And it made her affirm that she made the right decision in going to management because now she knew how to build relationships with them. And that's what you can do just through empathy. So the next one is conflict styles. This is my intersection here. And this is one of the things that I really care passionately about. Because when we deal with conflict, we have the opportunity to discuss, assess, and leverage multiple conflict styles. And if I were conducting my one-on-one laser coaching with you all or another conflict resolution program with you all, I'd be able to do an assessment and determine what your primary and secondary conflict style is. And I would help you understand when to use those situations, because the bottom line is when we're faced with conflict, a lot of times we respond habitually in our own personal way of conflict. And sometimes, well, I would say most of the time, it's not the best strategy. Right? Especially when we do it in our own habitual way. But when we leverage one of these 5 conflict styles, we get a better outcome out of the situation. And these 2 famous researchers, their name is Thomas and Killen, back in 1972, they came up with this model. And as you can see, there are 5 ways that we can respond to conflict. We can avoid the situation, we can compete, we can compromise, collaborate, or accommodate. And each one of these can be effective depending on the situation. But you got to know the situation and you got to know what strategy to use. And I've got a handout that I'm going to be providing after this that can help you determine when it's appropriate to use one of these conflict styles. And I just completed a conflict management project with this corporation named SMC based out in Indiana. And their senior leadership, they represented global IT, and they were merging all the global IT offices across the world. And they had trouble avoiding conflict, like some of you responded to when you completed the survey. They were avoiding conflict left and right. And because they weren't having those difficult conversations with people, nothing was getting done. And the things that needed to get done, it was just kicked by the can, and it was taking forever for it to happen, to things to get done. So the IT leader, the executive, he had to get involved all the time to manage the conflict. And it was extremely, extremely difficult for that to happen. So for a 2-month program, we worked on developing their conflict management proficiency from a level 1 all the way to a level 2, which helped them mitigate conflict and have those tough conversations with people, and it developed their confidence as well. So that's how effective this, managing conflict can be. And it helps you act much more effectively. And you've seen this slide. I mentioned it to you again. This is the 3-step process that I mentioned. You have to have all these 3 dialed in order to manage conflict or to work with jerks effectively. Now, if I were having a cup of coffee with you right now, I probably within 10 minutes of our time together, I can tell you which step that probably needs to firm up. You probably need a little bit more help with, or maybe your organization, I would probably be able to help you determine which step they need to firm up a little bit more in order to practice this 3-step process much more effectively. And this is part of this conflict resolution program that I work on, that I've been helping many types of organizations. And it's basically a complete solution for managing conflict and building relationships. People who like to work with me, they work with me. Some people say, hey, you know what, can you work with me for a day? And during that day, we assess your conflict management proficiency. We identify those 5 different conflict styles and when to use them. We talk about what causes conflict and how to employ that 3-step process. And we work live or virtually, online training repository people have access to, and we do laser coaching for the day. And if you are working with someone else who's having conflict, then we have those strategic working sessions to help your project team work better with another project team. But other people, they say, no, Eric, I think we need to work a little bit longer, like what I was, some of the examples I showed before, and we do something for 6 months. And I take you on a journey from achieving level 1 and level 2 conflict management proficiency. So not only do you get strategies to manage conflict and crucial conversations, you also find a common ground and cooperation with minimum noise. And this helps you improve that self-awareness. So that way you can respond to conflict situations much more quicker. And once again, this is live or virtual training, online training repository, and we do monthly laser coaching sessions like twice a month. And this is what the conflict management proficiency level looks like. People who are at the basic level, they're able to handle conflict objectively, promote calm dialogue and cooperation. They're able to identify conflict situations requiring attention and steps in to resolve. Some of this may be you. You may be at this level, but then you may have a need to advance to the intermediate level, which is finding common ground to get cooperation with minimum noise, meaning without other people getting involved, without your boss having to resolve the conflict, or being able to have self-awareness by responding to conflict situations in real time and not waiting a day or two. And so that's the difference between those two. But other people, they say, hey, can we work a little bit longer? So I've worked with some people for a whole year, and I take it to level 3 and 4 conflict management proficiency. And that way you can engineer plans to equitably and calmly resolve disputes, resolve conflicts before they occur, and you can transform into a well-respected and wise leader. And so this can take some time to do as well. And we do virtual training, in person, laser coaching each month, consulting, all those to really boost that up. And this is what it looks like from advanced to expert. Let's see if anyone here can relate to these kind of conflict levels. Are you able to step up to conflict, seeing them as opportunities to grow? Are you unbiased and trustworthy in situations that involve personal conflicts of interest? That's the advanced level. But if you want to get to the expert level, meaning you're looking for that senior director role, that senior leadership role, maybe you want to be CIO or other C-suite leader, you're going to need to be able to be an expert at masterfully diffusing volatile situations, becoming well respected and fair as a leader, and being able to engineer plans to equitably, calmly resolve disputes. So this is what people in this level, the expert level, they help other people do. Like people at the basic level, they help them achieve that. And some people, they say, well, you know what? I have access to your book. I can do this myself. I think, if all I have to look at material online, things like that. You can do that. It might take you longer to do. You might get minimal results because you don't have someone guiding you along the way and giving you feedback. But other people say, you know what? I love this. This is great, but I just don't have the time, and they end up repeating the same mistakes. So that's insane. But people who want to shorten the learning curve and they want faster, meaningful results, that's when they decide to work with me. So those are some of the things that you might want to consider. But also, like I mentioned, so I do have a guide to managing relationships. This is extremely important for anyone here who's ever worked with a jerk. If you want more information about how to manage those relationships with the people that you work with, if you want additional information about how to manage conflict or what your conflict style is, just talk to me. I'll be happy to talk to you and share some insight about how to 2 to 3 ideas to help you out with your specific situation. Also, if you'd like a signed copy of my book, How to Work with Jerks, that is also available as well. I'd be happy to mail you a signed copy. You can shoot me an email. I can make this available in the chat as well. And also, I talked about my guide to managing relationships, building relationships with people. This is a great guide to have handy, especially when you're in that specific situation. So I have this link here. I'm going to put that in the chat and you will have access to that as well. But I know I talked a lot here. And I want to kind of, pause right now and answer some questions that you might have, or any insights or any aha moments. So I'm interested in hearing a little bit from you. Any questions, comments, concerns, anything that you'd like to add right now? And feel free to drop it in the chat too.
So if anyone would like to come off of mute and ask a question or drop a question in the chat, if you don't want to actually speak, that's fine at this time, but the floor is open.
Okay, and so if there aren't any, what I'm going to do is, let's see, Amanda, do you work with individual people like coaching? Yes, I do. I do work one-on-one with people. Happy to talk a little bit more about that as well. But basically, people who like to work with me one-on-one, we have a conversation about what the specific issues that you're looking to address, and I'm able to customize something that can help you achieve the goals and stuff that you want. So if you're interested in that, knowing more about what that looks like, let me send you some information in the chat that you can, and we can talk about. So good question, Amanda. And I'm putting that in the chat right now. I put in my guide to managing relationships, my strategic working session. So, Armanda or anybody else, if you'd like to get on my calendar and talk a little bit more about your situation, happy to share 2 to 3 ideas to help you with the jerks, with the clowns, any of those things that you might have be dealing with. And let me put in my email address. So that way, if you like a signed copy of my book, happy to mail that to you. You're so welcome, Adrian. And so one of the last things I'd like to share with you too, and if of course this PowerPoint is going to be available too, but if there's one thing that I want you to remember about all the things that I shared, all the information that I shared, is that it doesn't matter how smart, doesn't matter how talented, doesn't matter how gifted you are, it doesn't matter your experience, doesn't matter what role you serve or title you carry. At the end of the day, our level of success is not based on the work that we produce. It's really based on the relationships that we build. And it's important to build those relationships before you actually need to work with that person. Because if you do it when you need to work with them, it's going to come off as disingenuous. People are going to understand your other intentions. And it's about building relationships. It really is. And so make sure that you build relationships so that way you can work with anyone, but especially those jerks. So I hope you all got some stuff out of it. Sure, Mr. Miner, Richard Miner, thanks for your email address. And I'll be more than happy to give you a copy of my book as well. Now, these are signed copies. Let's see here. So let me record this. I think we already have this recorded, so I'll put your information into the chat here. But I've got your contact information, and I will talk about how you can go get yourself a signed copy. As a matter of fact, what you can do is, anyone who would like a signed copy, please shoot me an email. I'm going to put it in the chat. This will be a lot easier, so that way I can keep track of everyone. Please shoot me an email at ewilliamson@taylortrainingsolutions.com. Looks like I have a question here. How long did it take for you to figure out you were a jerk? Was it the emotional intelligence training that was the aha? Great question, Cynthia. Great question. So what I failed to tell people is that I was an expert jerk who turned jerk expert. And it took me a minute to really stop that behavior. The emotional intelligence course was the aha moment because it gave me awareness. It helped me understand that, hey, Eric, when somebody asks you how that project is going, they're not doubting that you understand what's going on. What they're saying is that They want to know what's going on in order to support you. All right. So I had to look at things. It forced me to look at things in a different perspective. But I'll be honest with you, Cynthia, I did become a jerk. It wasn't the end of me being a jerk. Once I advanced to a leadership position, once I was responsible for other people, I started becoming a jerk again because I had all this pressure performing, and I wasn't the one doing the job anymore. I was relying on other people. So I was trying to make other people, I was trying to get the same results out of other people. But it was difficult because I didn't have that leadership skill. And so once I continued to invest more in emotional intelligence training, it really helped. It really helped me out. And a lot of the experiences that many people I know, a lot of my colleagues have gone through, a lot of like my wife has gone through, it made me realize, like, you know what? I'm not the only one, right? I'm not the only one. So it really helped me help provide proper perspective. But that first emotional intelligence course, that probably saved my job. I'll tell you that. Richard Miner, yes, I do emotional intelligence training. That is part of my intersection of how I help people. I work at that intersection of emotional intelligence, conflict management, and leadership development. So I'm happy to talk a little bit more about the kind of emotional intelligence training that you might be interested in or you'd like to learn more about. Please feel free to email me as well. See, Cynthia says, how did you repair the previous relationships? Which relationships are you talking about? Or are you talking about in general? Let me see here. I'm just gonna repost my scheduler link on here. So anyone who would like to learn more about this, okay, or in general, I got you. Hang on for a second. All right, I just put my calendar link. If anyone would like to have a strategic conversation about your situation or about any emotional intelligence training, about their jerk situation, just wanted to put that back in the chat so you see it. So how did I repair my previous relationship? Oh, it's like with my mentor, right? So, so I had to grovel a bit. I had to eat some crow, and it wasn't. So here's the situation. Because I didn't really realize that I was acting like a jerk, right? Initially, because I was acting like that and I didn't realize it, that aha moment that I had when I took that emotional intelligence course, once I realized that, I was like, oh, I was that person that I shared on the slide who was unaware. And so once I was so shocked at that, I was like, look, I know I've been a jerk. I know in these specific situations, I know I wasn't the easiest person to work with. I'm sorry, but look, you see all this work that I have on my desk? I need help. Can you please help me? I really had to grovel. I really had to really eat my own words. I really had to own up to my mistakes. And if I didn't do that, I don't think I would be working there. I don't think that my mentor, the one that I was talking about before, I don't think we would be friends to this day. It's been over 20 years. So since I had a relationship with her. And so when I repaired the relationship, a lot of times I had to, because I knew how I was behaving, I had to approach people and I had to apologize, like with Charlie, for example, right? I had to show that I was committed. I had to show that I was committed to the team. And so once I became more engaged and I started asking questions and I started asking for help and I put my ego aside, I stopped letting my ego become my amigo, people understood that. I realized that not only was my job in jeopardy, but I realized that nobody wanted to work with me. I realized that nobody wanted to work with me and I was alone on an island. And once I did that, it made things so much easier for me. I was able to go to work knowing that I had the support of people, knowing that people were going to help me, knowing that I could build a relationship with people. You know, that really, really helped. But, you know, I've been on the other side of it too. You know, not only where I was a jerk, where I worked with a jerk. And, you know, that's a whole nother story. And that right there really challenged how I was going to behave. It really challenged how I was going to behave. And so, like I said, if I wasn't aware of how I was behaving, I think it would have been too late for me to repair those relationships, Cynthia. I really think so. So happy to answer any other questions, any conflict situations. You're very welcome, Cynthia. Happy to answer any of the questions you might have, conflict situations, jerk situations. You know, it's we're in some stressful times these days, you know, and we've been through a lot over the past 2+ years. And having these kind of skill sets, especially in a remote environment, are extremely, extremely important, because not only is it going to help you advance your own profession, but it's going to help you build those relationships, use more empathy, because right now we can all use empathy. We can all become more empathetic. And it's not the easiest thing to do, because it's hard when we have to empathize with people that we just don't want to empathize with, you know? And we need to be able to build up that empathetic skill set in order to build those relationships with people, with anyone, because we rely on everyone to get our work done. That's what success is built on. So I do want to thank you for your time. I think we are just about at the 12:30 mark. I think that was the time that we had allotted. Devin, I can throw it over to you if you have any closing remarks.
All right. So thank you again, Eric, for sharing with us today. And thank you, everyone, for your engagement. I appreciate it. So I'm dropping a few links in the chat right now. The first one here is Eric's LinkedIn page. So please feel free to connect with Eric on LinkedIn. That's actually how we got connected. And we've been connected ever since. So definitely do that. The next link is for the National BDPA Conference, which is being held in Atlanta, August 18th through 20th. So we definitely want to see all of you there. So go to that website so you can register and see what we have to offer for you at the conference in Atlanta. This will be our first time back in person since 2019, I believe. So we are excited and looking forward to a great conference this year. And the last link I'll share with you is the webpage for our Tech and Career Talks. So this is where you'll be able to find the recording after today's session, as well as all of our previous talks are on there. So go check that out. Our videos are on our YouTube channel as well. National BDPA is the page on YouTube. So like, subscribe, comment, what all the influencers say. Press the button. But yes, is there a place where I can see the presentations at the BDPA conference? So aside from being there in Atlanta, there will be a virtual component to the conference as well. So if you can't make it in person, you could register for the virtual option and check out the sessions there. I'm not sure what the plan is for making presentations available after the fact, but if I do hear of something, I'll be sure to let you all know. So I would say follow the BDPA pages and go on the website. You may even be able to sign up for the mailing list to stay in tune there. Go ahead, have a question.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I haven't been able to see the agenda or the itinerary. I don't even know what's, so if I even have a hope of asking my company to pay for it, they're like, well, what are they going to be talking about? I mean, what are you going to learn? What are you going to bring back? And I can't tell them that because I don't even know what sessions are being presented. So I was wondering.
Fair. I'm taking a look around the website, trying to see if there's anything published yet around itinerary. My guess is things are still being finalized, so it hasn't been put out yet. But what I can tell you just from the past, there'll be a number of workshops on different topics, of course, all technology and career related. There's a mobile app showcase that typically happens. There's typically some type of pitch out that happens. We're actually working on a pitch competition around entrepreneurship for a few entrepreneurs this year. And there's some other things in the pipeline like that. There's a career fair that takes place as well. But as far as that, everything being published out yet, that's probably still in progress. But if I hear something else, I can definitely share that with you all. See, Armanda Killingham. So yeah, if I find something, I'll share that your way if there is something published somewhere.
Thank you.
Okay. No worries. Okay. All right, that is all I have. Anything else before we close? All right, well, thank you all again for joining. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is Sam Nixon. Just a quick question on the annual session. Will there be also a judging piece for the students who present their projects like we had last year?
I'm pretty sure there will be. I don't know the details of it, but I know there'll be the high school, I think it's called the high school coding competition this year, but that will be going on for sure. And I'm pretty sure the mobile app showcase and the pitch competition, I think all that is still planned as well. I just don't know the details of it.
Okay, I was one of the judges last year, so that's why I was checking. I hadn't heard anything.
Okay.
Thank you much. I
No
appreciate
problem.
that. Thank you, Brother Williamson, for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Sue.
All right, everyone. Anything else? All right. You all have a good one. Stay safe, stay blessed. Thank you again, Eric.
Thank you very much. You all have a great one. Take care.